You trust too fast because your brain is trying to solve a different problem than the one you think you are solving. You think you are asking, is this person safe? But your nervous system is asking, can I relax right now? And those are not the same question. If you have ever looked back and thought, how did I miss that? How did I hand them access to me that quickly? Stay with me, because once you see the mechanism, you will start recognizing the exact moment you get hijacked. Quick thing before I pull this apart. We are building toward 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps us reach more people with this kind of psychology that is actually useful. And if this hits a nerve, hit the like button too, because it tells the algorithm to share it with the exact people who keep thinking they are just too trusting when that is not even the real issue. You have felt this pattern. Someone is warm. They mirror you. They feel familiar in a way you cannot explain. You open up. You speedrun intimacy. And then later there is that sick little recalculation where you realize you trusted a performance, not a person. This is not just about gullibility, it is about timing, neurochemistry, and a mistake your mind makes when it tries to reduce uncertainty fast. Most people talk about red flags like they are external, like they are little warning labels on other people. I want to talk about the internal green lights that should never be treated as proof, because the trap is not that you ignore danger. The trap is that you misread comfort as character. Here is what is actually happening. Trust is not one thing in your brain. It is a bundle of different systems that can light up at different speeds. There is cognitive trust, which is evidence-based and slow. There is affective trust, which is emotion-based and fast. And there is what I call relief trust, which is when your system confuses the drop in anxiety with the presence of safety. Relief trust is the silent killer because it feels like wisdom. It feels like finally your guard is down for a good reason, but it is not a moral detector. It is a regulator. Relief trust is how you can know better and still hand someone your vulnerabilities on day 3, then later feel embarrassed like you were hypnotized. Think about this for a second. When do you trust too fast? It is usually not when your life is stable and your boundaries are boring and consistent. It is when you are lonely, overwhelmed, newly in a city, fresh off a breakup, starting a new job, grieving, or just tired of being hyper-independent. In those states, trust is not primarily social. It is regulatory. You are not bonding, you are downshifting. And whoever helps you downshift gets tagged as good. Now here is where it gets interesting. Your brain does not store people as objective profiles. It stores them as prediction machines. When I do X, they do Y. If early interactions create a clean prediction loop, your brain rewards that with a sense of control, and that feeling of control is experienced as trust. This is why someone who is consistent in the beginning can feel safer than someone who is actually safe, but slower, more complex, and harder to read. High predictability is soothing, but predictability is not morality. A manipulative person can be extremely predictable while they are acquiring access. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine two people. Person A is stable but nuanced. They take time to answer. They have boundaries. They do not immediately validate everything. Person B is quick, flattering, responsive, always available, always saying the exact thing that lands. In the early phase, your nervous system will often prefer person B, not because you are foolish, but because the data stream is easier. There is less ambiguity, and ambiguity is metabolically expensive. Your brain is an energy optimizer. It will call the low-effort prediction loop trust if it reduces uncertainty. Notice the pattern here. Fast trust is often a side effect of uncertainty intolerance. It is not that you love too easily, it is that you cannot stand the open tabs in your mind. Uncertainty feels like danger to the body, so the mind closes the tab by writing a story. They are different, I can tell. This feels right. That story is not romance, it is compression. It is your brain trying to shrink a complex unknown into a manageable known. And there is a specific bias that fuels this: the truth default. Humans are wired to assume truth in communication by default because constant skepticism would make social life impossible. Most conversations would collapse if you had to verify every claim. But modern life has a loophole our wiring did not evolve for. You can meet hundreds of new people with zero shared community and zero consequence for lying. The ancient software is still running. So when someone speaks confidently and emotionally, your brain reads it as high signal. Confidence plus emotion gets treated like evidence, even when it is just delivery. But here is the part that really messes people up, and most people never get told this. Some of the strongest green flags are not green flags at all. They are compatibility signals that have nothing to do with trustworthiness. Shared trauma, shared humour, shared politics, shared interests, the sense of finally someone gets me. Those are resonance cues. Resonance cues predict connection, not integrity. A person can resonate with you and still exploit you. In fact, exploitation often requires resonance first, because resonance lowers friction. You stop checking. You stop pacing. You start filling in missing information with goodwill because it feels like the same tribe. Let us go deeper. Fast trust is frequently a misfire of what psychologists call transference, where your brain maps an old template onto a new person. Not in a dramatic Freudian way, in a practical pattern recognition way. Your brain sees a few familiar cues, like a tone of voice, a kind of attentiveness, a certain kind of emotional intensity, and it says, I know this person. But what you know is the template, not the human. And the template could be your best friend, or your unavailable parent, or your first love, or your last mistake. Either way, the emotional certainty arrives before the facts. This is why you can feel chemistry with someone who later feels like a disaster, and then feel bored by someone who is actually stable. In chemistry is often your nervous system recognizing a familiar level of arousal. Familiar does not mean good. Familiar means practiced. Now watch what happens when we connect this to something that sounds unrelated, but explains a lot of the regret. Intermittent reinforcement. This is the casino mechanism. If someone is warm, then cold, then warm again, your brain starts to work harder to predict them. Your attention narrows. Your memory becomes selective. You begin tracking microsignals like your life depends on it, and the moment they become warm again, you get a dopamine spike, not because of love, but because of relief and pattern resolution. The relationship starts to feel intensely meaningful because your brain is doing constant prediction labor. You think you are investing emotionally. You are actually investing computationally, and your brain will defend that investment with trust, because admitting this is unstable would mean admitting you spent that effort on noise. So your mind makes a deal. It will interpret the next good moment as proof that the whole thing is good. This is why fast trust can flip into stubborn trust even after evidence appears. The regret later is not only about being deceived. It is about realizing you participated in your own deception because the alternative was emotional and cognitive loss. But here is a detail that will change how you screen people. Manipulative people often accelerate intimacy not by sharing, but by eliciting. They ask deep questions early. They create a confession atmosphere. They act like a safe container. You think intimacy is being built. What is being built is a dossier, and it feels good because self-disclosure releases bonding chemistry. You walk away feeling close. But closeness was induced, not earned. There is research showing that reciprocal self-disclosure increases liking and perceived closeness. The part people miss is that reciprocity can be faked. A skilled person can give you disclosures that are dramatic but low cost. Stories that sound vulnerable but do not actually give you leverage over them. Meanwhile, they collect high-cost disclosures from you, the kind that reveal your fears, your shame, your unmet needs. And if later they want control, they already know which buttons to press because you handed them the control panel while thinking you were being open. So a stronger question is not, did they open up? It is, did they risk anything? Because trustworthiness is not about words. It is about cost. If their vulnerability costs them nothing and yours costs you a lot, you are not bonding. You are being mapped. Stay with me, because the next part recontextualizes everything I just said. The reason you regret trusting too fast is not simply that you misjudged them, it is that you misjudged your own state when you met them. You treated your internal urgency as information about their character. Here is the pivot. Your brain has two speed settings for social decisions. In calm states, you use slow trust. You look for consistency over time, alignment between words and actions, how they treat people who cannot benefit them, how they handle frustration, how they repair mistakes. In dysregulated states, you use fast trust. Fast trust prioritizes emotional relief, certainty, and immediate connection. And it will choose the person who best regulates you in the moment, not the person who is best for you long term. This is why after the regret, you often say, I do not know what I was thinking. You were thinking, just with a different goal function. The goal was nervous system relief, not accurate assessment. That is not weakness. That is biology. But it is also a liability if you do not account for it. Let me give you an internal test that is more diagnostic than do I like them. Ask yourself, if this person disappeared tomorrow, what would I miss more? Them or the way I felt in my body around them? If the answer is the body feeling, you are probably in relief trust. That does not mean run. It means slow down because your perception is being tinted. You are not seeing them clearly yet. You are seeing your own regulation reflected back at you and calling it safety. Now here is another counterintuitive piece. People who trust too fast often have high empathy, but low calibration. Empathy lets you feel what could be true about someone. Calibration is what tells you what is true. When empathy is high, you can sense their pain, their potential, their backstory, their humanity. And you mistake I can explain them for I can trust them. Explanation is not exoneration. Understanding why someone behaves badly does not protect you from the behavior. And there is a social conditioning layer too. Many people were taught that suspicion is immoral, that boundaries are cold, that asking for time is rude. So they outsource their safety to politeness. They become easy to rush because saying slow down triggers guilt. A manipulative person knows this. They will frame your boundary as distrust, then use your desire to be fair against you. They will make you prove you are not judging them, and you will accidentally pay for that proof with access. So what does a psychologically literate form of trust look like? It looks like sequencing. Trust is not a yes or no. It is a gradual increase in access that matches evidence. You do not give someone level 5 access because they gave you level 5 feelings. Here is a framework I use because it forces the right pace. I call it the 3 proofs. Proof of consistency, proof of constraint, and proof of repair. Proof of consistency means their behavior stays stable across contexts and time, not for a week, across inconvenience, across small disappointments, across moments where you say no. Proof of constraint means they have limits they honor even when they could take more. They respect your boundaries, and they also have their own. Constraint is a signal of self-control, and self-control predicts safety more than charm does. A person with no constraint feels freeing at first and dangerous later, because if they cannot restrain themselves with you, they will not restrain themselves against you. Proof of repair means when friction happens, they do not punish you for it. They can tolerate misunderstanding. They can take accountability without turning it into theatre. Most people only screen for the honeymoon. Repair screens for reality. Now, if you want one brutal but effective practical move, it is this. Introduce a small, clean boundary early, something mild, a scheduling preference, a pace preference, a no to a minor request. Then watch their nervous system, not their words, their nervous system. Do they stay regulated? Do they get subtly coercive? Do they rush to re-secure closeness? Do they start bargaining, guilt-tripping, performing sadness, performing injury? That moment tells you more than their entire biography, because the mechanism behind fast trust is not lack of intelligence. It is a nervous system seeking closure, plus a mind that confuses predictability, resonance, and relief for character. When you understand that, you stop shaming yourself, and you start designing your own pace. And this is the ultimate insight that ties it all together. Trust is not a feeling you have about someone. Trust is a bet you place based on observed incentives and observed self-control. Feelings can inform the bet, but they cannot justify the bet. The people you regret trusting were often not invisible villains. They were simply people whose incentives did not include protecting you. Your job is not to detect evil. Your job is to detect misalignment before you are invested. So the next time you feel that sudden rush of certainty, do not ask, "Is this real?" Ask, "What problem in me is this solving right now?" If it is solving loneliness, chaos, anxiety, or self-doubt, you are in a vulnerable state for relief trust. Slow the sequence. Require the 3 proofs. Let time do the work that your nervous system is trying to skip. Because the point is not to trust less. It is to trust on purpose. And if you start doing that, you will notice something almost eerie. The people who are worth trusting never rush you to trust them. If this changed how you see your own patterns, I would genuinely like to hear what part hit you in the comments. And as you go into your next interaction, keep one sentence in your head. Comfort is not character, it is chemistry.